Hey, y'all. Hey. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Mission for Mental Health. I'm your host, Jackie Robinson. Whoop, 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 whoop. I'm excited about the show. I know I've been posting on social media all day about the show. I'm really excited. Anytime that I can bring you all somebody that's a part of my life to my podcast to share with you guys, I get excited about that. So this lady right here, she helping your girl out, y'all, because y'all know your girl been struggling. And so yeah, this woman right here, she has been helping me get through everything. So I've been talking about her all week, and so I am really excited. No usher in the background today, y'all. I had to move, had company in town this week. You know, it was my mama's 86th birthday. Whoop, 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 whoop. Shout out to my mama. She's still in her right mind. Sometimes she's still very independent, can do for herself. So we had a big celebration for her over the weekend. So I had to give up my little studio room. So I'm in my room. No usher, no poodle back here, but it's just me. So we'll change it up for y'all next week. I kind of like it in here a little bit, but anyway, I'm gonna bring on my special guest. My special guest, her name is Dr. Nicole Benton. Y'all remember when I was telling y'all about that? Yep, she is the creator of that. So I'm gonna bring her on. I'm so excited. Y'all give her some hand claps and some welcomes and all that good stuff. You know, I'm gonna try to keep up with these comments, y'all. So work with your girls. Don't think I'm ignoring you, because I'm not, but I'm trying to one day, y'all, this show's gonna blow up so serious, and I'm gonna have a moderator on here, and I ain't got to do the comments. Somebody can do it for me, right? So I brought her here. She is, y'all. There goes my therapist. That's my therapist. West side, because she from Cali like me. She a Cali girl like me. Hey, Dr. Benton.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for wanting to be on. So before we begin, you know, I got to shout out your bio. So give me a second, y'all. That's why I put my glasses on so I can see. And hey, my name is Jada. I'm here for my mother. You know somebody named Jada?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
I know a Jada, yes.
Okay. All right. So let me read you all a little bit about Dr. Benton. Okay. I hope you all like her the way I like her. So hold that thought. Ready? All right. Dr. Nicole Benton is a licensed professional counselor, certified mental health integrative medicine provider, state certified chaplain. So y'all don't be out here cussing and carrying on, okay? Got a chaplain on here. No, look, I gotta say that for myself.
I like people to be themselves.
Oh, that's a day. Okay, I got you a day. Okay. Oh, that's Jada. Hey, Jada. Okay, let me finish with the bio. Hey, Jada. I know who Jada is now. Okay. All right. State certified chaplain and author that attended Purdue University, Paine College, Liberty University, and Restoration Theological Seminary, earning an AA in electrical engineering technology, a BA in social psychology, and an MA in professional counseling, and a doctorate in theology. Dr. Benton has traveled domestically and internationally when she served in the United States Army as an administrative specialist. In addition, she does motivational speaking, event hosting, advocacy, and performing for mental health. Oh, because you act, you do that too, right? I forgot about that. She does prison reform, and she supports human trafficking victims. Dr. Benton has worked within the government, public and private sectors since 1997 in evangelism, counseling, corrections, and social services. Her career experiences include working with the Department of Juvenile Justice and Youth Detention Centers and the Department of Family and Children Services as a Child Protective Services investigator and field practice advisor. She's worked in the federal, state, and county correctional facilities and hospital emergency rooms. In addition, I ain't through. In addition, she has worked in various social service agencies and churches providing management, case management, training, consulting, counseling service for individuals, youth families, and businesses. Dr. Benton owns and operates 3 companies and a nonprofit, all dedicated to mental health and wellness. When do you sleep?
I have an awesome team. I see one of my team members is on, Stephanie Wilson. Shout out.
Hey, Steph. Hey, yeah, shout out to Stephanie. Whoop, whoop, whoop. We see you, Stephanie. When do we sleep?
No, I sleep. Everything is compartmentalized. And I mean, this has happened and been built over years. I am amazed at how God prepares you for things, to get you through things, to take you to where you need to be, right?
Yeah.
And I think, all my life, I've always loved serving the community and people who were hurting. I'm from the hood, I always tell people I'm a recovering hood girl. That's and I had to learn, like how to cope and get through things that I went through. Right. You said I was from Inglewood. I grew up in Inglewood. I was born in Gary, Indiana. So I always tell people I had the best of both worlds, all up through Chicago and all these places. And through all of that, I wanted to heal. And once I learned how to heal, I said, well, I want to teach others how to heal, especially when I really got into ministry. And I just believe that there's no healing without God. But I think a lot of people get it misconstrued. And this is where, when I wrote my book and studied the 7 deadly sins, I realized that the key to mental wellness is loving yourself. To be honest with you, knowing how to love yourself.
How to love yourself.
Yeah, and set boundaries. Don't forget about the boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes.
So after our session a couple weeks ago, I told y'all she my therapist, y'all. After our session a couple weeks ago, you reached out to me. And so I was shocked because I thought something was wrong.
Yeah,
but
I wanted to know who it was. We're not gonna say who it was. Let's say family member, but yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And you reached out to me, and you expressed that, hey, I think it's time for me to come on your podcast. And I've been wanting you on since I started. Yes. So what made you reach out to me? What made you say now is the time?
Well, I had a family member that was experiencing something that I had to try to navigate in another state, how to get help. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh my gosh, like this is so hard, and even as a mental health professional, I'm trying to call and say, hey, this is what's happening. I'm giving them symptoms, like, because I know what I'm talking about. Like, I'm laying it out, and I still was blown off. Yeah. So in my mind, I'm like, wow, this is what families really go through. It really put something in my spirit. Really need to put something together, some kind of booklet or something to help people navigate like step 1 through 3. Because what a lot of communities and the government normally does, they say, hey, call 988 or go to this place. But they don't tell you, like, this is what to expect, or you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. And if somebody is delusional, don't put them, in a situation that could make things worse. That way they end up getting arrested or something, right? And so, we want to keep everybody safe. Safety is key. But I was hurt by the system as a professional, and because I felt like, wow, if I'm calling as a mental health professional and I'm telling you, look, this is A, B, and C. I know you don't know me from Adam, but I'm giving you, that I know what I'm talking about because I'm doing symptomology. I'm telling you this is a first time psychosis. I'm telling you, all these various things, and you're still like, like a blonde or something. It was just crazy, And I just couldn't. I feel really bad for families And I know there's a lot of families out there that experience this and don't know what to do. So I wanted to come on and kind of just talk about, how not to get frustrated. But if, the signs, there are signs when people start changing before they get to a psychosis.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And you like, you shake it off like, oh, that was strange. Like, why they say that, and you just shake it off. Or you go to, this, thing where ain't no such thing as mental health. You know what you're doing, or getting angry or taking, it's like those kind of things. It's like, that's, I don't know. It's so much to talk about. I would rather just kind of put it together and maybe share it so that we can put it out to people. I want to get it from even your perspective, even as we have worked together on some things. We can kind of collaborate the piece, because one of the biggest things that I want to help people with is getting, making sure that they don't get in the way of law enforcement.
Yeah.
And
Law enforcement is still learning how to navigate. I always say, because I'm in law enforcement, this is not our job. This is not our job. And one thing I do like is the fact that law enforcement is now starting to bring in mental health professionals to ride with an officer to help them out, with these mental health crisis calls. Now, DeKalb County has had this for years. The mobile crisis unit, DeKalb County has had it for years. It's just not enough of them. It's just not enough of them. And so some of the other departments in the metro area are starting to do this as well. All over the country, actually, they're starting because they're learning that the police know how to enforce law. We are not trained on how to deal with people in crisis. They give us a little crisis intervention training, but still at the end of the day, we want to hurry up and finish this crisis and move on to the next thing, because our job don't stop just because of this one crisis. Exactly. So I think that, even when I was going through everything with my daughter, even being in law enforcement, like I am your sister in blue, I was still struggling, trying to get help with my daughter in a whole nother state. It was like I was being treated as just, and I shouldn't have special privileges just because I'm a police officer. I get that part, but I kind of wanted some special privilege because I'm a police officer. I'm trying really hard to get help, to get the help I need, and no one really knows the help. Like, no one knows what to do, and it is frustrating and it's hurtful, and you don't want to cross the boundary with these individuals, because once you piss them off, then they really don't want to help you.
They really ain't gonna help you, right? And I think I had that in mind when I was talking to the people, and I tried to use the family member to talk for me, like tell them what to say, because if I'm saying it, then you know what I mean. And it still just went absolutely nowhere. And I still had to take things into my own hands a little later. But, I just think we definitely need to be more aware in our communities about mental health. It is spreading. I noticed Virgo said that weed also leads to a lot of psychosis. That is partially true. And the only reason I say it's partially true, because it's not all weed. It depends on the strain. It depends on the person. People 18 and younger should not be smoking or using any type of THC in high dosages. It will cause some form of psychosis, confusion, things like that. The other part of that is the strain. Sativa strains and people who have high anxiety, it doesn't go together. So a lot of times when you already a very anxious person and you smoke a sativa strain, you're going to get really paranoid, jumpy, all these various things. And so a lot of that is where it needs to be regulated. I really, I spoke at the Southeastern Medicinal Cannabis Conference here in Georgia in Cobb County last year. And I was the only mental health professional. The only reason I really got into it is because going to states where it's legal, it's all over the place.
Right.
And you got people going to dispensaries asking for strains for depression, asking for strains for anxiety and sleep. And this is more of a mental health issue. And I felt like, as an integrative medicine person, I need to study cannabis, because I'm gonna start consulting, which I do. I consult in California, Vegas, Oklahoma, and Illinois right now with some of the dispensaries, and I try to help people understand what decisions they're making, because yes, it can cause issues, especially for younger people. And the sad part is,
Right.
you got a lot of young people out here smoking weed. They don't know where they're getting it from. And then they always want what they call loud or exotic, and the THC levels is super high, because those were the things that I was talking to some of the scientists in the medical community about. And also with the Cannabis Commission here in Georgia, because it's like, we need to go ahead and make it legal and regulate it. It's going to stop a lot of these things that's happening, especially with young people in weed. So that's a good point that you made, Virgo.
So what is sativa? What is that?
It's a cannabis strain. There's 3 types of cannabis flowers, but the main 2 is sativa or indica. So it's a strain, and they do different things. Indica is a body high. That's more for people like to use that for pain. And then sativa gives you energy, and it's more of a sativa is the one that, you hear about the rappers when they're smoking and they're thinking about all this stuff. That's more of a upper type sativa.
Okay.
I mean, strain. So they're just the strains. It's different plants.
Okay.
And so what they're doing these days, they're doing hybrids because of so if you do indica takes a lot longer to grow than sativa. So a lot of people do hybrids and how they're growing it these days, because it's faster, they can get it out and make their money, but it doesn't always mean that it's good.
Right. Okay.
And so but the best way I always say is that indica's a body high, sativa's a head high, basically.
Okay. So you said, I'm trying to look at these comments as well. I'm not ignoring you. Virgo asks, so what are the signs of the first stage of psychosis?
Normally severe. So most of the time, let's just use schizophrenia, because that's the most common that people know about. And it starts normally somewhere 17-ish, 18, 19, up to about 21. You'll see it usually when a person graduates or when they, get into college. And usually it could be like all of a sudden poor hygiene, not caring about how they look, isolating. They start staring at the wall and you looking at them and you saying, what's going on with you? Oh, nothing. And it starts off so subtle, you just don't even think about it. You just kind of like, oh, okay. And those are kind of the main ones that I could think of offhand. I don't have anything in front of me, but those are the things I hear people say, well, they did start doing this, or they started being fixated on something, numbers, cars, like anything. They just start being real fixated and, just becoming real isolated is the biggest thing. The isolation, aggressiveness. It starts off really slow and then it just grows until they have a full-blown episode. Now they're either aggressive or they're like overly crying. Religiosity is a big sign for people with schizophrenia. And really, religiosity basically just means that they're just so deep. All of a sudden, they're philosophers and they're trying to tell you what God is doing and how God directly spoke to them about it. So it's basically behaviors that's just not who they were before, but it's just, it starts off gradually. Like for a lot of kids, they end up with schizophrenia. You'll start seeing it around 17. It's just that it's so slight. You just like, what's going on with you?
I was thinking the girl smoking weed. I was like, this girl needs to stop smoking weed.
Yeah, you just kind of don't know what's going on.
She around here tripping.
Over time, again, the isolation, the crying for no reason, or the automatic, the aggressiveness for no reason, the staring at the wall. They start talking to themselves. It just starts coming gradually. And there's no way to really stop it that I could think of. But once you start seeing those signs, don't just brush it off. You know, if something's out the norm and you start talking to them and they can't explain it, or they're like, what you talking about? But you know, you see what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Let's go and take them to the doctor now.
Yeah. I wish I would have known earlier. I didn't know. I know what it was. At first I thought the girl was bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, when we sent her off to college, when her dad and I sent her off to college, and she started talking all out of her head that the FBI got her phone and the Christians upstairs are stomping on the floor and she needs a gun because her roommate's trying to kill her. We knew, like, okay, this right here, either this, you need to stop smoking weed.
Yeah, somebody right. Yeah.
But we really didn't know what schizophrenia was. You know, I've heard about it, you know, but I didn't really know. So a lot of parents don't really know, you know what I'm saying? So that's one reason why I created this platform, because I want people to become educated on mental health so they can start, when they see stuff, they can start recognizing it early and start taking measures. I found that, you know, with some people that I talk to who are in my situation, that they started recognizing signs, things that were different in their child, and they knew I need to get my child looked at. And they started seeing stuff real early and started addressing it early, which also made the individual want to participate more on the treatment.
Exactly, before it gets too bad. And so I'm seeing some really good questions here. Crime fiction media, what do you do when a family member refuses to go and talk to someone? Depending upon the age, there's nothing you can do. You have to catch them when they're close to themselves, like when they're acting somewhat normal, and get them in the car and say, hey, you know, I really think we can go and talk to someone. But to be honest with you, once they're an adult, there's absolutely nothing you can do. They have to say, I think I need help. 9 times out of 10, just depending on it. Because Virgo asks a good question. Schizophrenia is different from psychosis. Psychosis can come from many things. It can come from medical issues. You know, it could come from taking a new medication. It can come from, so here's another thing about psychosis. And I'm sure you heard people, they say, oh, they had a psychotic episode or a psychotic breakdown or a mental breakdown. Depression can lead to delusional type thinking over a period of time. So someone who is extremely depressed, say most of their life, and they just always feel like everybody's against them, my family don't love me, and they just keep getting blows and they never come out of it.
Right.
It could take that one last blow and they lose it. And that's a lot easier to come back from. So psychosis is signs of delusions, hallucinations, both audio and or visual.
Right.
That's really all psychosis is. It's a combination of those things, what we call word salads. They talking illogical, you know, and like I said, it comes from so many different things. You just never really know. But I try to teach people about trauma. You know, I believe that trauma is 99.9% the reason we have mental health issues. Absolutely. I wrote about it, right? I wrote about it from a spiritual point, because we have to understand that when we feed negativity, it grows. So whatever you feed, it grows. If you are having, if you had a lot of blows, whether it's molestation, rape, abandonment, and then over life, you start creating these, you know, false sense of securities, whether you're coping with, you know, alcohol, drugs, sex, shopping, eating, and you think you're okay, but what happens when you get older, you can't keep doing that stuff. It turns into other things. Your relationships are in jeopardy, and we're constantly, because your personality is that you're all you got and you're the only person that you can trust, and you forget that you got to trust God. That's how I know it's spiritual.
Right.
Because we start trusting ourselves over God, and you can't do that because we messed up, right? So the reality is that especially in Black communities, poor communities, because it's not just Blacks, it's really poor communities where you can't afford the best medical care and you can't afford the best lawyers and you can't afford this. You get what you can get. And a lot of us are misdiagnosed early.
Yeah.
Especially Black. If you go to it, and here's the thing, and why I'm very big on teaching and supervising new clinicians about trauma and teaching them about trauma, is because if you work in certain areas, a lot of the doctors and the nurses, they do not understand psychological trauma. And so when we get in there, Pookie them, we get in there and start talking to Dr. whoever, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how to explain our symptoms. We don't, we just, hey, we ain't feeling good. So what happens? Everybody, a community mental health place, they come out with bipolar, schizophrenia. And here's the thing I always hear in the jails. They'll diagnose somebody with schizophrenia because they'll say, well, you hear voices, and they'll be like, yeah. And then when I talk to them, well, what kind of voices you hearing? Well, sometimes I be having these thoughts, but you just told this doctor that you hearing voices. Like, we just don't say things right because we wasn't educated about it. We're not, and so what happens, we got misdiagnosed, over-medicated, and not even educated right to even know what to do. But what I try to do is help people understand that you're in control of your mind. And when we talk about things like spiritual warfare, I'm not a religious person, but I know I'm spiritual. And I know that things are out there that's beyond my scope of understanding. Right. And the thing about that is we think that just because we have a thought that we just supposed to run with it. It's like, no, you ain't got to run with it. You gotta take that thought and line it up with, is this who I really am, or am I really? It's so many things that goes into that. You have to check yourself before you wreck yourself. Yeah, constantly. It's an everyday thing, because the more we live, the more we experience, and the more we create lies even within ourselves. And this is how mental health issues even start. Think about the child that was bullied. And the reason that they're bullied. Right. And when they get older, they think that everybody don't like them because of what the person told them that they was bullied. Now they got these little personality glitches, right? Control issues. Because now I try to control everything and anything around me because I think that I can, and you really can't. And you causing more issues, not only for you, but yourself and everybody else around you. So it's a complex thing because we are complex people. Correct. And what I really try to help people understand is that you gotta love yourself above all things. We're not taught that. You gotta set boundaries and understand self-care. We wasn't taught that. We were taught we're selfish if we try to think about ourselves. And we grow up thinking we gotta take care of everybody else. Right. And we're burning out and being mistreated, and all these various things are going on. And we think it's okay because that's the way we're taught. And nobody says, no, baby, that's spiritual warfare. You gotta cast those thoughts down. Right. You gotta go back, because if I keep being negative, you ain't gonna get nothing but negative. Right. And so although I'm clinical, I'm very spiritual, and I know it goes hand in hand. And I believe, even though I'm in integrative medicine, there are some people that need medication. So
can I ask you a quick question? Mm-hmm. Can you talk more about integrative medicine? What is integrative medicine? Is that holistic healing, or what is integrative medicine?
Alternative medicine using herbs. I mean, that's the bottom line. Whatever God gave us to grow, we can use it for medicine. And I became certified in it to help people, because so many people don't want to take medication, but there's no other alternatives. And so I focused on mental health when I got my certification. And I tried to help them, help people with that before we go to more extensive type things like medication. And so, I mean, I work with a slew of psychiatrists now, because they'll, work with people and they say, I don't want to take medicine. And so they'll call me and say, hey, I got this client, are their symptoms, can you help them? And that's what I do. And sometimes, it takes a little time, because with supplements, I tell people everybody's body is different. So what works for you may not work for the other person, because there's so many things that goes into herbal, using herbal alternatives, which is, if you're on medications, your eating habits, your exercise habits, some other back things that when it comes to your health and stuff. So you have to try things. Some herbs may work for this person, may not work for the other. So we could try it. The one thing I like about herbal medication is most of the time, the worst thing that could happen is a rash, or you might get a dry mouth.
Or a little headache.
Or a headache, right. It's just right? And it's like, oh, okay, so we know this flower, we can't use that. But I got another one, because when I tell you, like right now, I probably have about 75 or so different herbs for mental health, for hormone imbalances, because that causes mood issues.
Right.
And also inflammation. Because thinking about it is, and what people don't understand, most diseases, 90% of all diseases start with stress and inflammation. So you got to control that with your diet. You got to control that with setting boundaries so that you're not overwhelmed over all the time. Learn how to say no. Right? Love you. There's so much that goes with that. I'm seeing all these comments. I can't answer everything.
We'll go back through them. Yeah, y'all just keep your comments coming. We'll go back through them and answer some of your questions. So don't think you're being ignored. You're not being ignored. We're going to come back and answer some of your questions, as many as we can get to.
Yeah, so I mean, there's so much that goes into that. It's definitely a mind, body, spirit connection. Like a lot of people don't know that like 80% of your serotonin is in your stomach. So there's a mind gut connection. And a lot, if you're eating certain types of foods, especially like people who have ADHD, depression and things, there are foods and supplements, especially older women, like we need magnesium. That does wonders once your hormones start changing. So there's so many different things, but don't be scared to try it. It could be a little expensive, but it's worth your life, in my opinion, for you to feel better about yourself, what you're doing. And then you have to learn how to be authentically you and not be scared to be you. I've helped people be authentically them.
I wrote that down today during our session. Deal with truth of who you are.
Yeah. If you could do that and truly be real with yourself. We have so many ills in the world that people want to point fingers. You want to point fingers at guns. You want to point fingers at the government. You want to point fingers at this and that. The reality is, the true crisis that we have all over the world is identity. People don't know who they are. And it comes from so many different things, being the perfect child when you was coming up, not having a voice when you was coming up, and a lot of it does stem from childhood. And there's so many things that we don't even pay attention to that takes over time. It's amazing. The more I've studied this thing, the more I've done my own work, the more I'm still working, because again, I'm a recovering hood girl. Remember that.
Right.
And so there's so many things that I had to, when I first started using the 7 deadly sins theory behind trauma, I was working in a federal prison. And I used to work with a lot of guys and females who didn't believe in anything. They didn't believe in God. They didn't believe in nothing because they had horrific trauma. That facility was the first time, God, I would go home sometimes shaking because of some of the things that I would hear. It was horrible stuff. And you just don't think that people would live through some of the things that people are out there. You just never know what people have lived through.
Going through, right.
Right. And so I remember going home and I said, God, what do I do? Like, I don't know how to help people who don't believe in nothing. And it was clear as day. It was like he told me, teach them to believe in themselves and I'll do the rest. And so I started putting together some groups and some educational things and worked with some guys. And these were people who like they didn't believe in God or nothing. And the more we start working, I mean, it was miraculous. And what was even more miraculous was that I think 3 of them, all of a sudden their charges was just dropped and they got to go home. But when I say how much they changed, they started having their own Bible study. One guy started writing his autobiography and book. I had one writing Psalms. Like, it was just amazing. And I feel like at that moment, God showed me that mental health was more so about your belief system than what you think. Because if you don't believe in yourself, who else gonna believe in you, right?
Exactly.
If you always try to be something or whatever for everybody else but yourself, you're pretty miserable.
Yeah.
And it turns into so many other things. So I'm really trying to help people understand how to get back to themselves. I wrote a blog the other day. Know your roots. Your roots has nothing to do with flesh and blood. It has everything to do with who you are spiritually. And if you could just tap into that person, what was it before you were hurt that you always wanted to do, or that somebody talked you out of because of loyalty that you felt you had to have, especially because of flesh and blood? I mean, I had 21-year-olds doing federal time for their parents because they felt like, well, they're older and I can do the time. What? So now you just ruined your life for this parent who's scot-free and still doing what they doing, and you in here, so we make decisions for other people that we won't even make for ourselves.
Right.
And then wonder why life ain't going right. It's really that, it's simple, but it's not. But you got to fight yourself. You got to fight for your life. I promise you. In the times that we are in right now, if you don't take control of your mind, your body, and your spiritual self, you're going to be in trouble. Because you think the pandemic that we just had was something, it's getting worse. It's getting worse. And we're getting ready. The government is saying we're going to have a mental health pandemic. What do you think that's going to look like? Think about everything that we're seeing now.
I feel like we're in a mental health pandemic already. So let's talk about. Let me go through a couple comments and then let's talk about hood recovery.
Yes, hood recovery.
Okay. Let me go through a couple of these comments. I had one. Somebody asked a question about, can you speak about CHS, cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome? Do you know about that?
A little bit. I haven't dealt with it, but it goes back to what I was saying about excessive levels of THC. I mean, that's the bottom line. When you're doing too much, and a lot of this stuff that's out there now, they got plants out here with like 85% THC. That is crazy, right? And so it kind of, you have natural cannabinoids in your body that controls and works with your hormones. And so what happens when you're doing so much excessively, your body just becomes out of whack. I don't know how to explain it, like in I guess without being too clinical.
Right.
So I do understand what it is, but just know that it comes from excessive like high levels of THC.
Okay. Are people who may be schizophrenic tend to have a higher IQ? Just asking because I have a cousin. He's around my mom's age. He's very intelligent, but he has his moments when he goes in and out.
It's possible. I don't think there's no one set thing, but it is possible. A lot of it just depends on, I guess a lot of their experiences with education and things prior to having their full onset.
Okay.
So it is very possible. Yes.
S. Lattimore. Now I don't know if this is my Lattimore or not. I'm not sure.
Okay.
My daughter has been diagnosed with several different things. Each doctor has called it something else. My daughter is bipolar with schizophrenic tendencies.
So I don't believe in that. Anytime and this is me. This ain't Dr. Nicole LPC. This is Nicole just talking. Okay. So let me just go back about a diagnosis. When you give a person a diagnosis when they come in, it is based off of probably 6 months to current, and you will take into consideration things from, past the 6 months, but we're supposed to be diagnosing you from right now. What happens when you go to some types of clinics, I'm not going to name them, they will ask you, what is your, were you ever diagnosed with anything before? Well, yeah, some people don't dig enough to find out if it's anything different. And so what happens, you end up stacking all of these diagnoses. And 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with that person's, current functioning. And so, which is how people get all these different medications and stuff. So the best way to say that is, and it still goes back to some form of trauma. You got people who never, you might not have been molested or raped or anything that was just horrible. But you were abandoned. You felt abandoned and alone. And that's still kind of an emotional trauma. It's a lot harder to diagnose because you may or may not say the right things. But some of the symptoms, they cross a lot. And so if a person doesn't take the time to dig, to really get down to the root of what's going on, then you're going to have all these diagnoses. And that's what's so unfortunate about it. And again, poor or, if you're not totally rich to go to this, retreat and be all catered to get back to yourself, it's really hard, especially if they don't have good communication skills and are able to really tell what's going on. So what's that question again? I'm sorry.
He said that his daughter's been diagnosed with several different things and each doctor has called it something different. Their one diagnosis is bipolar and another is schizophrenia. So it looks like that their diagnoses are being stacked. So
yeah, there's no, so you can't remember what I was saying earlier about when you go in and the person is being assessed and they may not be really explaining things right, or they not really digging to ask the right questions. If you want some help, my number is 855-795-3537. And I can kind of talk to you about that a little bit more of what to do and what questions to ask to make sure that you get to the right circumstances.
Let me get that number again.
855-795-3537. If you call that number, I can kind of talk to you about it, and then we can, because here's the thing, trauma trumps everything, in my opinion, right? Trauma trumps everything. So you could be depressed, anxious, mood swings, hallucinations. Even with some hallucinations, it doesn't mean that you're schizophrenic.
Right.
People who have dissociative disorder where they act like one person and then they act like somebody else, that's staggered trauma. They're going back and forth in different times of their life where they wish they could have did something to keep them safe. And so you're going to get a 12-year-old them, you're going to get a 30-year-old them, right? So you got all these different things that really is complex trauma. And when they go to the doctor or they go somewhere, because a lot of people are not trained in trauma effectively, in my opinion, they're just going to say, oh, that's schizophrenia, because they say they hear things, or they're going to say, oh, they bipolar because they said they have mood swings,
right?
And they don't really get into the trauma itself. So just call me. I'm really good. That's what I do. So we can get down to the bottom of it.
Good. Therapy can be scary, but definitely needed. It's hard to relieve some of the trauma. Spiritual warfare. Let's see. Absolutely. Fight for your life.
Yes.
Yes, sis, it's me. Which look, because my ex-husband ain't gonna call me sis. I gotta see which Lattimore this is I'm talking to. Okay. Speaking on spirituality, I read in ancient Africa rituals when some exhibited schizophrenic symptoms, a shaman would interpret them. They believe they communicated with deceased who crossed over.
Yeah, I've read about a lot of those different things. I'm going to tell you, I've had experiences working in hospitals where Well, no, I could even tell you one better. I was doing a intake one time, and the lady, I'm trying to get out of her. She was already diagnosed schizophrenic. She was with her mom, and I'm trying to get out of her about her drinking habits because mom says that she really goes into these tizzies when she drinks. And she wouldn't never answer my question. And all of a sudden, she just sat up on the couch, and her face kind of changed. It was so strange. And she says, "What do you drink?" Her voice changed. It was so strange. And I remember looking at her going, I said, "Can I talk back to?" And I said her name. And they looked at me and they sat back. And I said, "Now can you tell me da 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 da?" And they went right into the interview. So schizophrenia, I do believe, is very rooted spiritually. Is why people say things that they're seeing, hearing. You know, a lot of people never had those types of situations before in prison, and all of a sudden they're hearing and seeing things, and they'll get talked about because you don't understand it. And someone on here said something about fear drives it. It's fear. The more you fear it, the more it grows because you got taught about it. That's what I'm saying. We have to teach people how to have a strong mind before anything, right? And so one of the things I tell the guys in the prison all the time, look, they can take your body, but they can't take your mind.
That's right.
You got to work on your mind while you're in here so that you're not feeding into the environment. And there's so many different things in there that causes those types of things. So being a clinician, in my own practice, because we do faith-based counseling, we're getting ready to open in August a professional biblical counseling kind of unit through my seminary, because I think it's important. We have to get people back to themselves, which is with God. That's my opinion. As a clinician, you still have to be healthy, right? So when I'm working in the clinic setting, the whole thing is we got to be healthy, mind, body, spirit.
Right.
How do we do that? And so those, I can go either way with you. I prefer doing ministry and helping you understand spiritual warfare because that's where it starts. That's just the bottom line. You can say it's family, you can say it's related, but when you think about your environments that you are in, and this is why, going back to why I started Hood Recovery. Hood Recovery is basically fighting the hood mentality, right? Ice Cube wrote a song about it, right? And he was so on point about that, because when I first went to college, I told you guys I went to Purdue. I first went to college. I remember liking someone, and we would hang out because we had like a couple classes together, and we would always go to the student, room, the little break area together. I forget what they called it, but anyway. And I asked him one day, because we hung out so much, like, why he never tried to hit on me. Like, why don't you like me? Right. And he said, "Well, you just a hood rat." Oh. That's what he said to me. And now I was 17 when I graduated from high school. So, I was smart. But I didn't do well in high school trying to hang out and do everything else. And so, but anyway, when he said that, I was really confused because I was like, what the hell is a hood rat, right? I didn't even know what that was. You talk about 1990.
That's our word out there in California. They love to call us hood rats back in the day.
Did he just call me a hood rat? Like, I didn't understand it. But it was from that moment. And I went on, went to the military, did a lot of things. I got exposed to different environments, different cultures, different people. I realized everybody's not the same. However, emotions are universal. So no matter where you at, those emotions gonna get to you. And emotions lie, which is how we get into these generational lies based off of our culture and our environment, and those things grow. And so I'm very passionate about helping people heal to stop recidivism. I'm very passionate about people who been sex trafficked, because I was violated at a young age and I was raped twice. And so for me, it's like, if I can heal from this, you can heal from it, right? But let me give you the tools to do it, because the bottom line is you have to love yourself. And what happens is that the enemy at a very young age tries to get you not to like yourself. Whether, I talk about this in my book. you've heard of like colorism, right? Being dark skinned. Growing up in California and things, I remember I was called all kind of porch monkeys and darky and this and that.
Yeah.
So by the time we moved back to Indiana, now get this, I moved back to Indiana, and all of a sudden, but I'm in middle school, I'm starting to fill out. So now boys are liking me. I didn't know it was because I had a butt, right? I'm thinking in my mind, oh, it's cool to be dark skinned in Indiana, but it wasn't about that. But because I've been teased so much from a young age, I carry that with me. So you'll start looking at certain things like, well, I can't wear. I remember I used to always wear dark clothes, and my grandma used to say, "Why are you wearing dark clothes all the time? You could wear bright colors." And I used to think, no, I'm too dark, right? From being teased and bullied.
Right.
And we carry that stuff, and it will play on you. You know, if you get cheated on, and you get cheated on with somebody who's super light, right? Oh, he cheated on me because I'm dark. Like, that's how our mind, it's like that's the first thing your mind goes to, and it's just not true. Like, we carry on lies and lies and lies based on our experiences without healing. And that's what causes these, different situations and things. And so who else needs to heal the most are the poor, the oppressed, and the people in the hood. And so we started hood recovery this year, and it's been a little slow, but we got a few people we've helped, and it's been very rewarding to be able to see people come out, have the support they need, and get a job or start their businesses or whatever it is. It's different things, but we got to heal our minds. We got to heal. Bottom line, too many people are insecure for different things, no matter what it is.
Right.
And I'm going to teach you this too, real quick, about what's important about healing. Insecurities. People think insecurities is just about relationships, but we're insecure. Just like I talked about my skin, back then, it was always like me being dark, right? Insecurity means that you're not free from fear, doubt, or evil. That's what insecurity really means. It has nothing to do with, because you're jealous. And no, it means you're not free from fear, doubt, or evil. When you look up the word cure means that you have a means, action, system, or method to heal. Doesn't mean that you're going to heal, though. So people are like, oh, I'm cured, but have you healed?
Right.
And you can only get healing from getting back to yourself authentically, that spiritual self, and your, who are you really? And when you start really questioning who you are and why you're here, you'll start really figuring out and setting those boundaries so that you're not doing things you ain't got no business doing. It may be good stuff, but it's not what you're supposed to be doing, right? And so a lot of people are miserable because they're not living in purpose. They're living outside of themselves. Just think of purpose of living out who you are. You got to get back to that. And if you don't get back to it, you find yourself in these repetitive cycles of things, and you're wondering why, because you're not being authentically you.
That's kind of like having a hood mentality. Being stuck.
Yeah. You don't necessarily have to be from the hood.
You have to live in the hood or be in the hood to have a hood mentality.
Exactly. And so that's what it is. And I just want to say, there's a thing for hood mentality. It's about wellness. It's about trauma awareness. It's about surviving and starting to thrive, being purpose driven, coming out of poverty and violence. That's a mentality. Poverty is a mentality also. Stopping child abuse and neglect, those generational lies. And then we have to come together. We don't have to believe in the same thing. We don't have to even like each other. But we do got to come together at the time, a place, and have action towards what we all agree on, which wanting to be safe, wanting to be well, wanting our kids to grow up and be safe. If we could just do those things and not get so wrapped up into what somebody else is doing, we'll have a better place to live, and so that's really what hood recovery. We have to heal, and it starts with mental health and God. That's just my belief. That's why I started Reconciliation Movement, So I do clinical work, but my baby is reconciliation, because God gave me that some years ago. And I'm really trying to push the understanding of spiritual warfare, because we need it now more than ever.
Yeah, we sure do. Woo, y'all. What did y'all think? That little hour flew by. We got like 5 minutes left. And so in the last 5 minutes, I'm just going to share a couple things that have helped me a lot. I'm still working. I still have a lot of work to do. Of course, Dr. Nicole knows that I am a stubborn child. So she knows, she told me, well, at some point, Jackie, you're going to have to do the work. Now, we can sit here and we can have these conversations every week if you like to. But at some point, you're going to have to do the work. And I agree. And so, Nicole's been a blessing. Dr. Nicole's been a blessing to me, helping me get through just life, not just with my daughter. That's just one component. That was just the straw that broke the camel's back. I've been having issues. I just didn't know it. But that situation is just the straw that broke the camel's back. You want to talk a little bit about some of the healing tools that you have given me thus far, as far as my teas and because I didn't want to drink no tea, my tinctures, and what those are and how those assist in holistic healing?
Well, sometimes you got to understand fight or flight, your brain. When you go through a lot of things, your brain is constantly in fight or flight, whether you think you are or not. So anytime, especially with anxiety, and you find yourself being very anxious and panicky all the time, you need a little help, right, to get through your day, to even be able to focus on creating your toolkit of coping mechanisms. And so I started making things like teas and tinctures. I even have medicinal shortbread cookies, especially. I like those because people who like to snack at night, just to eat this cookie and go to bed. You're going to sleep real good.
Don't eat them all.
You're going to sleep real good. But, anxiety causes people not to sleep, which throws off your body. So, one thing I really try to do is help people sleep better, and so that we can even get to treatment. I can't help you if your body's off, right? And so if you're not sleeping and you tired, you get off work, you're not okay. We got to get that together first. So we start working with different supplements for energy. You might have a hormonal imbalance, vitamin D deficiency, somebody said. So usually I have you go do a vitamin deficiency test first. Some people already have you already had yours. So we kind of go through that and we look at where we need to add some supplements and see how you feel. Now let's work on your beliefs and your thought processes. Right. And it that's the way I've been doing it here lately. It works pretty well for most people who want to do it or who want to try it. The biggest thing is you got to do something different to get something different.
Absolutely.
And check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Check
right?
Yourself.
My favorite slide.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah, that's it. No, but that's why I started that. I really don't put it out there as much. During the summer, I do vend a little bit. But I really just do it for my clients right now because it's just me and it's a lot of work. So, but I try to be affordable too. So
yeah, because she gets in the lab for me, y'all. She got to get in the lab for me. Do you want to share your information about your book? If anyone wants to reach you, I put your number in already. And yeah,
go to recovery.org. And everything's on there, from the book to the services we provide. You can get to my practice. You can see some of the products that I sell, as far as the tinctures and teas and things. I even do cooking for mental health. I sell infused butter for people who you could put, you're cooking eggs, put a little butter in there. It'll help get you on your day, so things like that. But you'll see everything. You go to hoodrecovery.org. And you definitely will find me.
Yes.
And everything.
This was good. I'm so glad that you had a little time to come on with us tonight. I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much. I told them in the beginning, I was referred to Open Path. Never heard of it before, And like I said, they give you a whole list of people to choose from, but something led me to you. I don't know why. I was just reading bios, and then I came across you. So I feel like God sent you to me, and you have truly been a blessing for me. So I thank you for being a part of my life. And I really thank you for having patience with me, because I am a problem child. You know, that police, that controlling police in me makes my healing a little bit longer than the rest, but I'm coming along. So I do appreciate you. I appreciate you for coming on and sharing information with my viewers. I hope that they learn something. If you all learn something, give me some claps in the chat. Give me some claps in the chat if you can.
Thank you so much.
I shared her information right here. Let's see. You all know how this thing goes. If you know anyone who would like to be a guest on the show, you can always email me at missionformentalhealth@gmail.com if you or if anyone would like to be a guest. Y'all see how this thing flows? It goes by so fast. Some people are real nervous in the beginning, and then they start talking. They're like, oh, I want to do it again. Can I be back on? So it goes fast. People enjoy it. Everyone has a story to tell. The purpose of this podcast was to bring light to mental health. Not just in the Black community, but in every community, because it's not just a Black issue. But for some reason, there's a stigma in our community. So, you know, I do promote our community a lot more. So I just want to bring awareness, and I want to show that mental health comes in all forms, shapes, sizes. There's no prototype for it. There's no billboard for it. There's nothing for it. But I also bring professionals on to let you know that you can live a normal life if you're willing to do the work and get your mental health in check. Okay. So if you like to be a guest, or you know anyone like to be a guest, Mission for Mental Health, you can also follow me on all my social media platforms. You can hit me up. You can get me quicker on social media, because y'all know I'll be on that thing all day. So I keep saying I'm learning how to TikTok. I'm working on the TikTok. I keep calling it TikTok. My daughter says TikTok. I'm saying TikTok. You sound old when you say stuff like that. But anyway, I'm working on the TikToks, y'all. So hit me up on my social media. I appreciate you all for watching. House rules. Remember, subscribe, like, and share. We want to grow this thing. Y'all know I've been down at the Capitol being nosy, trying to see how these bills are passed, right? So when you see your girl making moves, I want you to say that you are part of it. All right. So y'all, please subscribe, like, and share, so we can grow this channel, monetize this thing just a tad bit. And we got a couple little comments at the end, some hand claps. Thank you, you guys. Dr. Nicole, do you have any last words for me?
Be aware, be alert, and stay active in your own health.
Yeah. Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah. That part.
All right, y'all. I appreciate you. I will see you guys next Wednesday at 8 o'clock. Have a good week. Dr. Nicole, stand by.
Okay.